Hadirin sekalian, sebelum kita mulai, izinkan saya menyampaikan beberapa peraturan penting untuk perkuliahan hari ini. Yang pertama, untuk peserta dalam Zoom meeting, mohon pastikan bahwa Anda memiliki koneksi internet yang stabil, mohon matikan mikrofon Anda, nyalakan kamera, dan gunakan virtual background yang telah disediakan. Yang kedua, peserta dipersilakan untuk memperhatikan kuliah umum hari ini dan diperbolehkan untuk membuat catatan. Yang ketiga, peserta diharapkan mengikuti acara sampai selesai dan tertib. Yang keempat, harap diperhatikan bahwa kuliah hari ini direkam untuk referensi di masa mendatang. Beberapa peraturan tersebut bertujuan untuk memastikan bahwa peserta memiliki pengalaman kuliah yang positif dan produktif. Terima kasih.
First, I would like to start off by expressing my heartfelt thanks to all of you for taking the time to join us today. Your participation is greatly appreciated, and we are so glad that you could be here with us today. This lecture has been designed to curate insight from distinguished experts, shaping the blueprint for the future development of the West Java region and Indonesia.
Pertama-tama, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada para peserta yang telah meluangkan waktu untuk mengikuti perkuliahan pada hari ini. Partisipasi dari para peserta sangat kami hargai, dan kami sangat senang bahwa para peserta dapat berada di sini bersama kami. Kuliah ini dirancang untuk mengumpulkan wawasan dari para ahli terkemuka untuk membentuk rencana pembangunan masa depan wilayah Jawa Barat dan Indonesia.
West Java Development Planning Agency and Faculty of Economics and Business Pajajaran University proudly present public lecture The Role of Short Food Supply Chains in Advancing the Global Agenda for Sustainable Food System Transition.
Bapeda Provinsi Jawa Barat serta FEB Unpad dengan bangga mempersembahkan public lecture The Role of Short Food Supply Chains in Advancing the Global Agenda for Sustainable Food System Transition.
We understand that your time is valuable, and we are grateful that you have chosen to spend it with us. We promise to make it worth your time by providing valuable insight and sharing informative knowledge throughout the course of this lecture.
Waktu Anda sangat berharga, dan kami berterima kasih karena telah memilih untuk meluangkan waktu bersama kami. Kami berjanji untuk membuat waktu Anda yang berharga dengan memberikan wawasan yang berharga serta berbagi pengetahuan yang informatif selama kuliah ini berlangsung.
So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. We hope that you find this lecture both engaging and informative. So let's get started with our lecture.
Sekali lagi, selamat datang kepada hadirin. Kami harap perkuliahan ini menarik dan informatif untuk para hadirin. Maka dari itu, mari kita mulai perkuliahan pada hari ini.
For the first session, there will be a welcoming remarks from Head of Economy and Natural Resource Planning Agency of West Java Province, Mr. Eka Jatmika Sundana.
Untuk seksi pertama, akan ada sambutan dari Kepala Badan Perencanaan Perekonomian dan Sumber Daya Alam Provinsi Jawa Barat, Bapak Eka Jatmika Sundana. Kepada Bapak Eka Jatmika Sundana, waktu dan tempat kami persilakan.
Terima kasih, Jo. Apa tadi? Seksi pertama? Karena seksi pertama. Terima kasih, Jo, Alika. These are internship students from Unpad. They are undergoing training at Bapeda office. There are 7 students here now at Bapeda Jabar who will complete your internship at the end of this month, ya. Oke, good afternoon. Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun. Punten saya singkat aja mungkin ya, pengantar aja. Welcome, Dr. Rico Ihle. Is it pronounced correctly? Dr. Rico Ihle, Associate Professor at the Agriculture Economics and Rural Policy Group at Wageningen University. Luar biasa, kita dapat tamu dari Wageningen University. Ini salah satu universitas terbaik dunia nih ya, yang punya spesialisasi di agriculture atau pertanian. Ya. Jadi suatu opportunity kita kehadiran pakar seperti beliau level internasional untuk datang ke Bapeda dan memberikan termasukannya untuk Jawa Barat. Juga Kang Prof Arif Ansari Yusuf, hatur nuhun, always a pleasure to have you here. Hatur nuhun sudah kembali lagi membawa partner-partner pakar-pakarnya untuk berbagi informasi di Bapeda. Ya. Beliau tentunya sudah kita pahami bersama dan sudah kita kenal bersama sebagai dosen senior dan masih jadi ketua Dewan Guru Besar sampai tahun depan. Itu Dewan Guru Besar se-Indonesia, Kang ya. Oh, udah selesai. Kalau yang ini, yang masih tahun depan, yang Unpad. Siap, punten belum update. Yang Indonesia belum selesai. Intinya beliau jelas kepakaran sudah kita pahami bersama, dan kami di bidang ekonomi Bapeda sangat banyak minta masukan dan wejangan dari beliau. Oke, so Dr. Riko, welcome to Bandung. Welcome to Bapeda office. This is called Ahmad Sobana. The room is called Ahmad Sobana. Is the name of a historic person. He's one of the pioneers of development plan concept in West Java, and he once served also as the head of Bapeda. And his main concern is mostly in the development of human resources, education, etc. So that's why the room is dedicated to him, and the room is designed more like a classroom, so like education. So this room is dedicated to Pak Ahmad Sobana. So maybe just a little bit of introduction about agricultural development challenges in West Java office. I will not talk too much, but just to give you introduction, probably Pak Riko, about what is West Java and why is it important for Indonesia. Yeah. Next. First, maybe talk about population, Pak Riko. We have almost 50 million. I don't know how many population in Germany. 80. And in Netherlands? Oh, 18. 18, 180. We have almost 50 million population in West Java. So it's the challenge is more like managing a country, similar to South Korea, I believe. Yeah. So of course, this posed a great challenge for us, how to feed them, to provide food for them, good quality food. So that's why also the quality of our future generation can be guaranteed. And as we can see now, we have demographic bonus, like almost 28% of population categorized as Gen Z. Yeah? And it will continue to do so maybe until about 20 years from now, 2045. The population of productive age will dominate West Java population. Yeah? And we have 27 municipalities. And before we only manage land area about 3.6 million hectares, but now we are mandated with sea area as well, 12 miles from the coastline, 1.6 million hectares. So now we have about 5.3 million hectares that needs to be managed by us. But yeah, the issue is population. We have lots of people, and we have it can be blessing for us if we prepare them with good quality skill to contribute to the development, but it can also be burden if lots of stunting or maybe lots of poverty, etc. So these are the general information about West Java. Now we talk about a little bit, maybe, but short, maybe about challenges about agriculture of West Java. Next. Yeah, so maybe similar to many other places in province in Indonesia. Yeah. Why West Java is important? Maybe it's, almost 50 million people. So 18% of Indonesia population situated in West Java. Yeah. And West Java also mandated by the central government to be central of food producers, but also mandated by central government as the central of manufacturing activities. 60% or about to 70% of national industry is situated in West Java. So that's why number one challenge is, I think, extensive land conversion, especially in the Rebana area, the northern part. Lots of area will be converted to industrial area. So it's competing with agricultural land area. So agricultural land continue to decrease. So production decrease, even though we still claim to be self-sufficient for now. But yeah, this is the issue for the future. Yeah. Extensive land conversion. Second one, the logistical and distribution challenges. As I mentioned before, so in the upstream or the production side, we say that we are self-sufficient. We have lots of production, etc. But in the downstream at the market, sometimes it's very hard to find the commodity, hard to find the products, expensive, etc. So something happened in the middle. Something wrong in the middle. Some logistical or distribution challenges. Maybe there's some mafia working in that part of business. Yeah. So these are challenges for us. one of the effort for us to alleviate these issues is to develop we call PDP, or Pusat Distribusi Provinsi, or provincial distribution center located in Purwakarta. But still we just recently developed. Third challenge, of course, is the poverty. Most poverty we found in rural area, and most of them, majority of farmers only works as farm laborers. They don't have their own land. So the welfare of farmers is also a challenge for us. Even though di Englishnya apa ya, Kang Profnya NTP deh. Englishnya nilai tukar petani always increasing. Gimana? Oh, farmers term of trade. Farmers term always increasing in terms of the number, but in reality, when we found in from our survey, found that still majority of farmers is source of poverty in West Java. Fourth one is, for now, the aging population of farmers. 70% of farmers, they are more than 40 years old, 45 years old. So the future of agriculture in West Java cannot entirely rely on old farmers. We need a generation. It's a key challenge also for us to, to know how to, young people to get more into agriculture. Fifth one is now it's becoming increasing issues for us. So food loss and waste. 22.3%. It's a study from Ibu Fatima and her colleagues from IPB, I believe. 22.3% of food is lost and become waste. And if we convert into economic value, it's equal to lost value of 32.8 trillion rupiah. So it's substantial for us. At one side, poverty, need some food. At the side, they waste food. So these are at least these 5 issues. Maybe there are others also issues like nutrition, stunting, which is still related with agriculture and also, nutrition and health for children. I think that's it. Just give some idea about all the challenges what we are facing in West Java. Hopefully, maybe nanti Bapak Ibu semua nanti mohon masukan dan mohon komentar-komentarnya. Maybe from Pak Riko's lecture, we can have getting more insight. I think the title is the role of short food supply chains in advancing the global agenda for sustainable food system transition, which I believe will be really suitable topics to address our challenges in West Java. So that's it for me on behalf of the head of Bapeda. Welcome again to Bapeda. Very happy to have you here, Kang Prof, again. So hopefully we can have a fruitful discussion and, of course, can contribute. Right now we are developing a long-term development plan. Next also will be a mid-term development plan. Of course, these agriculture and food issues will be also an important thing for us in the next 20 years. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eka. Okay. Now we have arrived at the main session of this event. We would like to encourage all the participants to pay attention to the session because we have very great speaker. The session will be guided by Professor Arif Ansar Yusuf as moderator today. Prof. Arif is senior lecturer and researcher at the Department of Economics, Pajajaran University. He is also researcher at the Australian National University and King College London. Currently, Prof. Arif is also the director of Center for Economics and Development Studies. He has published extensively and is active in various professional organizations, including as the Secretary General of Indonesian Regional Science Association and steering committee member of Collaborative Green Growth Modeling Forum.
Kini kita telah sampai pada sesi utama acara. Kami mengajak seluruh peserta untuk memperhatikan sesi ini karena kita mempunyai pembicara yang sangat hebat. Sesi ini akan dipandu oleh Profesor Arif Ansar Yusuf sebagai moderator hari ini. Without further ado, Please welcome Prof. Arif Ansori Yusuf. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. When Pak Victor asked me to moderate this public lecture, I was a bit reluctant. The reason because the English language. Because for me, I have non-Indonesian wife, so I speak English at home. For Sundanese, it's already tiring, and I have to go outside still speaking English. Come on. I want to speak something else. Anyway, and also I suggest to Pak Victor that the session maybe is in the afternoon, not in the morning, because this is about SDG 2, which is zero hunger. So I want you to have lunch first before before speaking here. So everybody will be happier, I think. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank, as from Pajajaran University, I would like to thank Pak Eka and friends here who provide us venue for this event, and also this event cannot be organized without several organizations like SDG Center Unpad, and then Faculty of Economic and Business, and also Department of Social Economic Agriculture, Faculty of Agriculture, because actually Rico is here visiting the Department of Socio-Economic and Faculty of Agriculture. And I think this is good. Why? Because this will be a good collaboration between many organizations. And I never seen something like this before in my career. So you have a regular venue in Bapeda. Talk about something very urgent and important. So thank you again for Eka. So one of my job is to introduce Rico. So Rico is associate professor at Agriculture, Economic and Rural Policy Group of Wageningen University. It's one of the best schools in the world in agriculture and also agriculture economics. He teach on agriculture, economic, and policy analysis for agricultural and food markets. So it's all about. Yeah. So he graduated from Germany. He himself was spending his childhood in Eastern Germany. Interestingly, he did his PhD at George August Universiteit Göttingen, Germany. So it's not very far, actually, from Netherlands. So he is like Sundanese too. Yeah, does not go very far away, just around their area. So like me, SD, SMP, SMA, sekolah, kuliah, kerja di sini aja. So that's Sundanese. Sundanese cannot go too far. So if there is someone say that Sunda Empire is not in our character. Okay. So I have to stop, otherwise I will stand up. So Rico, I invite you to come here and to present about the short food supply chain. Yeah, and hopefully also after that we can have discussion and then please ask anything related to our region. Yeah, the context of our West Java, so we can capitalize his brain while he's here. So take it away, Rico.
Thank you, Pak Eka and Pak Arif, for the nice introduction. Who is managing the slides? With whom do I need to communicate? Okay, good. So welcome. I will give a presentation on the topic which has been already mentioned. This is based on some research, but I will translate the research into practical terms. I have been now almost 2 months in Indonesia, most of the time in West Java, actually. So I'm still, of course, coming from a European perspective. So if I'm using any terms or saying some things which are not clear to you, I mean, just raise your hand or ask directly, so that we can make sure that it's clear what I'm explaining. Next. Oh, no, maybe let's stop. So you see, I'm from Wageningen University, but I'm using here the slides from the University of Bologna in Italy, because the research has 3 Italian co from this university, and that's why I'm using their slides. Okay, next. Yes. So first, supply chain different from Indonesia. But nevertheless, the market structure of short food supply chains is suitable to solve issues in European context as well as in Indonesian context. Short food supply chains, both in European context and also in Indonesian context. Third, then it's probably worthwhile to highlight what are those global goals for sustainable food system transitions about. And then fourth, how does the supply chain, which are short, relate to these global goals? And then we conclude, and then it's over. So next slide. Any questions to that outline? No? Okay. So first we are having a look at Europe, then at Indonesia, and then globally. So most of the food in Europe, you see, is marketed in this way. Next. Next. Yes, thank you. So large-scale supermarkets. And this transition basically has happened during the last 20, 30 years, that almost all food, I would estimate roughly 90% of the food, is marketed via large-scale supermarkets, which has some advantages, but not only advantages, it has also some disadvantages. Next. And this is this happened because many areas of Europe are suitable for large-scale farming, and that's why, please, let's have a look at the first video. And we just take 1 minute. Thank you. So this gives you an impression, can we go back to the slides, of some of the large-scale farming, which has basically developed in Europe due to the suitability of land and due to the focus in agricultural policy on technological innovation, basically. So many of the areas in Europe for food production are characterized by large farms and high productivity. Next. And this structure, of which you saw an example right now, has been changed a lot in the past 5 decades, because basically when the European Union was founded in the 1960s, agriculture was much more small scale, there were much more farmers, etc. But due to a consistent long-term focus on enhancing agricultural productivity, the whole agricultural food production sector has substantially changed. Next. So right now, most of the agriculture in Europe is based on intensive use of energy and technology, basically also dependent on that. Next. And labor force is being tried to be minimized because the costs of labor force are relatively high, and that's why, and of course, the productivity of one person alone without machines is very limited. So the big productivity jumps are only being reached by large-scale machinery, which of course depends heavily on inputs in terms of technology, in terms of energy, in terms of fertilizer, etc., pesticides, etc. So this is European agriculture is very dependent on those input industries. Next. But you see that here you see a map. I'm not sure where you can see that, but this is basically the average farm sizes throughout Europe, throughout the European Union, right? And you see here, dark green, this category is average farm size in a region of more than 100 hectares per farm. So you see also dark green is not dominating the map of the European Union, right? Although if you would go here, if you would extend that map to Ukraine and Russia, there you have the same phenomenon due to socialism and due to collectivization. You have there large farms, which are much larger actually than Western Europe, right? Farms of 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 hectares even, right? I mean, this is huge. But these huge farm sizes do not exist in Western Europe, but there's fairly strong variation. And what we saw this example was basically from here, from this region. Yeah? So you see average farm size here about 80 to 100 hectares. And in East Germany, where I grew up, and also Czech Republic, due to socialism and due to the collectivization, right now, after also the fall of socialism, those large farm sizes have actually been maintained. And they also exist in Iceland and in large parts of Great Britain. But you see, for the rest of the European Union, farm sizes are small. So basically here, this category light green means average farm size smaller than 5 hectares. So you see, differences are huge, right? And I mentioned they are not everywhere possible or desired, because if you look at the geography of Europe, it's kind of similar to Java, right? It's not all flat. There are also big mountain ranges. One of the biggest mountain ranges is the Alps, which basically stretches here, and from France basically until Slovenia, and it's basically all this area here. This huge, the biggest mountain range in Europe. Then there is another big mountain range here, and here, Italy, there is a big mountain range going down. So in those areas, this big scale farming, which we have seen from Sweden, is technically not feasible, right? And it's also not desired because those areas making lots of money from tourism, right? So if you have their, and the tourists in Europe, they have a very romantic idea of agriculture. They want to see the cows in the meadow. They want, you know, they want to have small stables, should be like in a fairy tale book. So also policymakers are reluctant to push there for scale increase in agricultural production because then they lose the tourism potential. That's why short food supply chains is not an issue in those areas, or also in the Netherlands, right? So short food supply chains for the large scale production areas is not an issue. But for many parts of the European Union, Austria, Italy, Slovenia, also Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Spain, Portugal, it's a big issue because the farms are small. And for those small farms, the short food supply chains are a big chance in order to get closer to their clients and also push their revenues. Next. Yes. Next. Twice. Okay. Let's have a look at the second video. And do we have a pen? I take both. So the first video is, can we enlarge that also?
L'associazione Latteria dei Ragazzi è nata circa 3 anni fa in seno all'Oasi Agrituristica Baugiano per dare la possibilità ai giovani.
We're stopping here and there so that you actually realize the important points here. So this is basically an interview of a small-scale farmer in Italy, and there are thousands of those small-scale farmers. And she's basically, she is the farmer, the head of the farm, and telling about her business strategy. And you saw in like few seconds back, a big issue is there, the issue of agritourism. Yes, we continue.
Ai ragazzi di fare esperienza della multifunzionalità in agricoltura.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So another big issue in Europe in the last 2 decades is multifunctionality of agriculture, because the idea is our food production is relatively expensive in international comparison. So if our farmers in the disadvantaged areas, right, in those mountain ranges, are only producing food, this will be so expensive nobody wants to pay for it. Or even if we find enough clients, that will not be enough for the farmers to get sufficient income. So the idea is multifunctionality, meaning connecting food production with other purposes. And of course, you can very easily do that via short food supply chains. So one of those other purposes is agritourism. Okay, continue.
Ogni anno vengono a Baugiano dai 5.000 ai 10.000 bambini, suddivisi in scuole che vengono durante la settimana, famiglie che vengono nel fine settimana e ragazzi che vengono durante l'estate. La multifunzionalità in azienda agricola porta sicuramente un aumento dei posti di lavoro, perché oltre al lavoro con gli animali, quello intorno all'orto, nella trasformazione, nella vendita diretta, nella ristorazione, nell'ospitalità.
Sì, da scolaro, da siero.
Se la mia azienda agricola fosse solo produttiva, basterebbero 2 persone, ma essendo un'azienda agricola multifunzionale, do da lavoro a 10 persone. Nonostante la crisi economica, la mia azienda...
Yes. So she's actually emphasizing that, right? So if she would only produce food, it would be barely enough for 2 persons to survive. But just because she is doing many more things, she can actually give work to 10 persons. And of course, for rural areas, which I don't know to what extent this is a problem in West Java, but in Europe, like in the 1980s, 1990s, there was lots of immigration from the rural areas to the urban areas. Why? Because many of those villages you see here, they're fairly remote. I mean, it's very neat to be there for vacation, but living there is, people do not appreciate that too much. So increasing jobs in those rural areas in Europe is also a big topic in order to push down the immigration to the rural, urban areas. Yes, we continue.
Ha visto aumentare le entrate grazie alla diversificazione delle attività e grazie soprattutto alla vendita diretta. La mia azienda è molto piccola, ma proprio per questo può essere replicabile. Vedere i bambini e i ragazzi che si avvicinano alla campagna e che lavorano la terra nonostante la fatica e lo sporco è quello che mi fa alzare tutte le mattine dal letto.
Okay, now the third video. And this is from Austria. This is automatically translated, so the English will not be perfect.
Wir sind hier am Zangerlhof in Rankweil in Vorarlberg und der Hof wird von der Familie Zangerl und Rosenzopf bewirtschaftet. Ich bin die Claudia und ich bin hier am Hof aufgewachsen.
Wo Claudia und ich uns entschieden haben, hier im Hof mitzuarbeiten, war uns klar, dass wir andere Wege gehen wollen. Wir arbeiten mit einer Werbeagentur zusammen. Das kostet sehr viel Geld, aber es bringt auch ganz, ganz viel.
Uns ist einfach wichtig, in den sozialen Medien auch zu zeigen, wie die Tiere leben, wer dahinter steckt, also wer da die ganze Arbeit macht, und auch die Jungen interessiert es, woher kommt mein Essen, wie sind die Tiere aufgewachsen, was bekommen sie für Futter. Das möchten wir ihnen alles zeigen mit den Fotos, mit den Stories, die wir dort veröffentlichen. Wir bekommen sehr viel positives Feedback und haben auch schon neue Kunden gewinnen können.
Ein Bauernhof oder ein Hof ist nichts anderes wie ein Unternehmen, und so sollte man es führen. Es sollte alles eine Produktlinie sein, der Wiedererkennungswert von einem Produkt sollte gegeben sein.
Also die Qualität muss natürlich stimmen und sie müssen schön aussehen, weil das Auge isst natürlich mit.
Und zum Beispiel bei den Fleischpaketen kannst du entweder dein Produkt in einen Plastiksackel am Endkunde geben, oder du machst eine schöne Schachtel, wo schön gebrandet ist mit deinem Logo, und der Kunde hat, bevor er es schon probiert hat, das Gefühl, er hat ein Premium-Produkt in der Hand.
Bei uns im Hofladen bieten wir an Äpfel, Kartoffeln, Apfelsaft, Essig, Apfelmost. Weiters gibt es Edelbrände und auch seit kurzem Eierlikör bei uns im Hofladen. Dann haben wir unsere Freilandeier, Mehl und Nudeln vom Martinshof, weil wir für den Martinshof Dinkel anbauen. Dann bieten wir auch unser Fleisch an, also man kann vorbestellen. Was übrig bleibt beim Schlachten, bieten wir dann auch tiefgekühlt an.
Beim Fleisch war es so, dort haben wir versucht...
Go back a little bit back. Just, yes, there. No, a little bit forward, no. A a little bit forward. Yes, thank you. So that's a German word for farm shop, basically. So this has been a big fashion for those small scale farmers all over the European Union. So that basically because they have large buildings on their farms, and if they are kind of located in reach of big cities, that they basically opened a small shop on their farm. And also here you see what they are basically telling this Austrian farm. They are processing not only meat, they are slaughtering on their farm, which most farmers do not do, but they're also processing their fruits into fruit juice and other drinks, and then basically sending this to the people. So they have a website where people can order, and they're sending those packages to the people. But additionally, they have basically this farm shop where people from big cities, or from next city, can go to buy their car and just also enjoy the environment. It's not only of the question of purchasing food, right? So they would go there on purpose to be on a farm, and that's why I think they are also serving some cafe and etc. So to give them an experience, which is basically this multifunctionality. So it's not only about food production. Of course, that's the main purpose of their business, right? But the idea is of those short food supply chains that they want to give their customers a whole experience, an authentic experience, right? Because this is a real farm, and the people from the city coming there actually are on a real farm. That's not a Disney movie or whatever, right? And that's part of this multifunctionality. So they're basically giving also the people, in terms of environment and expectations, what they do not have in their daily lives, and this is highly appreciated by many people from urban areas. And this has been a pretty successful approach throughout the Alps, also in Germany, in many areas, and also in France. Yes, continue.
Dann auch tiefgekühlt an.
Beim Fleisch war es so, dort versuchen wir so viel wie möglich direkt zum Vermarkten. Dort haben wir mit der Werbeagentur ein Konzept entwickelt, angefangen vom Bestellformular über den Internetauftritt, über Social Media, das Format passt, Etiketten, Premium-Etiketten haben wir gesagt. Wir haben im Hofladen das Weiderind. Wie vermarkten wir das? Oder? Für einen Endkunde ist es einfach wichtig, er kann heutzutage mit 10 Kilo Fleisch, fängt er nichts mehr an. Wir machen kleinere Einheiten, vakuumieren es alles, beschriften es mit dem Datum alles, dass der Endkunde das Produkt nehmen kann, in den Kühlschrank reinpacken kann. Wenn er aufmacht, sieht, da ist das gute Zangerlhof-Fleisch, das gönne ich mir heute.
Der Zangerlhof haltet folgende Qualitätssiegel ein. Einmal von der AMA Genussregion.
So basically, what you see that those both examples of farms. So the first one was approximated from here, and the second one was approximated from here. They are trying to differentiate themselves using short food supply chains. And one background information which they didn't mention in the videos is, of course, the food you purchase there is more expensive than in the supermarket. They just cannot afford to produce cheap food. But people going there, and also those school classes which you saw from the Italian video, I mean, they are happy to pay a little bit more because they're also getting experience, right? If you go to the supermarket, that's not really experience, right? So basically they are trying to cleverly connect the assets which they have and combine them in order to give a whole multifunctional experience to the customers. Next. Yes, so for clarification, what are short food supply chains? Here you see the supply chain of onions in the Netherlands. Yeah, we could also take another product, wouldn't matter. You see, it's quite complex, right? Here are the input industries, these are the onion producers. And then this is what is it? I cannot read it. Onion, yes, traders, and the distribution center, supermarket, and consumers. And then you have also import, export, you have the food industry, and you have the restaurants and other food industry actors. So you see the whole thing is quite complex. Next. So what is then a short food supply chain? Basically a chain, no. Yes. A chain involving limited number of operators, which are committed to cooperation, local economic development, and maintaining close geographical and social relations to each other. Mainly between food producers, processors, and consumers. And in many cases, in Europe at least, the farmers, you saw that from the video in Austria, the farmers are doing the processing on their farm in many cases, because it also gives them more value added, right? And now, next. So basically, a short food supply chain are the blue arrows, right? So direct connections between the producers of the onions and the restaurants, and the producers and the consumers, and the restaurants and the consumers, that's it. And everything else, not there. Of course, short food supply chain have a limited potential, right? It will not be possible probably to produce the food which is needed in Jakarta or even in Bandung, right? In a greater area, it's like 11 million people, if I'm right. Yeah, this is many people, right? So producing all food in the environment of Bandung will be difficult. But the short food supply chains at least have the potential to connect the rural surrounding areas more to the urban areas, so that the development, or that you can actually realize the potential which is there, although this potential is limited. Next. So, what are the characteristics of those short food supply chains? Food is typically locally, regional produced. So you make sure that basically the value added stays in the region, right? And this is, of course, from regional planning perspectives, that might be a goal and might also help to address several of the issues Paeka was mentioning. Next. You see intermediary traders are out of the game mostly. Next. There is no need for long distance transport, which will give you environmental gains. Probably. Next. In many supply chains, at least in Europe, low or no processing. I mean, you saw some examples. This Austrian farm was producing juice and some other drinks. Yes. Sometimes also in the Alps. Basically, what happens in the Alps is the traditional, because it's very high in the mountains, and because it's at the higher, more northern latitude, you can only have grass there, right? So only grass is growing in the Alps in higher latitudes. So the only way of farming possible there is basically grazing with cows or sheep. So the traditional way is to graze their cows and sheep and milk them and produce cheese from the milk. And this is also some of the processing those farms still do, right? And because those farms are really high up in the mountains, on altitudes of 2,000 or 3,000 meters, and there are no roads even in some areas. So it's really like it used to be. This processing is very important, otherwise you could not use the milk, right? But they are very experienced, and they are basically trained to do the processing basically in the farm during the summer, and then in autumn cows come down because in winter there's no grass up there. Next. And of course, one big advantage is that those short food supply chains are able to cater local taste and diet habits, which is good for food security, but also for dietary diversity. No? If you, I mean, everybody of you is aware of the geopolitical developments in the past 2 years. It makes you also less dependent on world markets, because what happened in the world markets, I mean, Ukraine is from Indonesia, I don't know, 5,000 kilometers away, something like that, right? But it's on the other edge of the globe. But if you have war there and you have your diet entirely based on wheat in Indonesia, you basically notice the effects of the war in Ukraine and Indonesia, because wheat prices just exploded on global level, right? But if you have basically a short food supply chain which is growing local vegetables, local fruit, local grains, then you are much more independent and much more resilient to those negative world market developments. Next. So basically, they generate economic benefits. And I added here a plus because it's much more than only economic benefits. Next. Yes. So the question is, which other effects do they also generate, or mainly benefits, right? Okay, next. So now we are taking the international perspective. In this research we did, I showed in the very beginning, we looked at what is internationally actually existing in terms of the organization structure of those short food supply chains. And it's basically those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big types, and then 2 others which are rather general or rather specific. So the first one, alternative food network. Next. Yes. So those are basically very modern merging networks of producers, consumers that try to produce and market food in alternative ways, which does not correspond to the industrialized mode of food supply. Next. A box scheme is basically a model you saw also in the video from Austria, where people, so there's a website people can order, and then they just get every week or every month such a box of food, what they ordered, delivered by car or by post at home. Next. Community supported agriculture. So that's a very altruistic way of the short food supply chain. That's basically people who want like a cooperation style, right? So basically those people would invest together and also take the decisions on the growing of the crops together, and when to grow and what to grow, how much to grow, right? So it's basically community, yeah, like a small parliament, if you want so, right? So it's not only the farmer who decides, it's basically a group of people, including the consumers, who decide together, which has, of course, advantages and disadvantages. If those consumers are located all in big cities, they might not know enough in order to make clever decisions. Maybe that's better to leave it to the farmer. Farmers market. Next. Yeah, those are existing a lot here in Indonesia, of course, right? Those recurrent markets where farm products are sold directly by the farmers, and the kind of alternative of this is this direct marketing, the farm shop, which you have seen in the video from Austria. Next. Then local food system would be basically the name of several of those combinations for food production which are close or the area of consumption or the place of purchase. Next. Then solidarity purchasing group. Groups of consumers who purchase collectively. through a direct relationship with producers according to shared ethical principles. And in Europe, so the community supported agriculture, but also solidarity processing group, these are also usually ways of food production which are non-standard in a way that they want to follow specific organic practices, or they do not want to keep any animals. So they want to try to have food production only based on plants because they are either vegetarians or vegans. So, but basically those kind of designs of short food supply chains give you as a consumer also some power in order to influence the way of food production. And that's why this in big urban areas in the West is very attractive, because some of consumers really want to influence and want not just to buy what is offered. Next. And more, so this is like the big 6 schemes which are dominating internationally, but then also urban farming, direct farm marketing, peasant farming, and next. And also structures which are nowhere fitting are also existing. So you see from that, there are some structures which are frequently existing internationally, but there is also, so those short food supply chains give the flexibility to be designed in a way that they really solve the issues at hand. Next. Yes, and in contrast to that, I went, when was that? I think on Saturday. No, on Sunday. I went next to my hotel to a supermarket. Of course, I needed food. And then I saw this. That's from an Indonesian supermarket. I was like, ooh, this is Polish. I was like, Polish and Indonesian, how come? Okay, next. So then I took one of those. Oh, can you read this or no? Okay, I mean, it's basically, so this is packaged in Poland, but produced in Turkey. Here it says Turkey. So if you look at that next on the map, so produced here, transported to Poland for packaging, transported to Indonesia, and here people can buy it. Interesting. Next. Yes. And then next to the apricots, there are resins. And you cannot see that, but the resins, it's written here, they are produced in Chile. So Chile is here, right? So the resins travel from Chile to Poland and from Poland to Indonesia. Oh, yes. So before this was about 14,000 kilometers, the apricots travel. And those resins, this is about 24,000 kilometers they traveled until they ended up here in the supermarket, right? So this is like the big contrast to short food supply chains. And of course, you know, as consumer, I mean, why? Is there no closer place to get resins from? I mean, why would you grow the resins or the grapes in Chile, dry them in Chile, ship them to Poland, and from Poland to Indonesia? Strange, right? And of course, this kind of trade has lots of, I mean, it has also some advantages, okay, right? But it has also lots of disadvantages, because just the distance and the traveling and the environmental side effects of the transport, I mean, this is huge, right? So I found these examples very astonishing, and I found them by chance, so I thought I should include them in the presentation, right? So this is something where many European consumers would say, no, I don't want that anymore. They would reject that. And that's why they would consciously choose these short food supply chains, because they on purpose would like to support the farmers in the region and not the farmers in another continent. Next. Okay, now let's have a look at, I have had very interesting excursions in those 2 months. And then I realized actually yeah, that many of the things we have been visiting is connecting to the topic. And there are basically, yeah, two patterns in West Java and in Indonesia, I suppose also. Traditional marketing next, which is basically the formal markets and the street vendors, and the innovative short food supply chains. Next. So traditional marketing, this is somewhere in the mountains south of Bandung, right? Yes. Close to Ciwidey, yes. Okay, next. Like this, next. Next, this is in Bogor. This also Ciwidey. Okay, next. And then this is like innovative short food supply chain. This was a farmer group in Ciwidey, which basically, how many hectares did it? 50 hectares of strawberries, right? Was it? Yes. 400. Oh, 400, yes. So they were huge, and we went there. It was very interesting to see because it was high in the mountains. So basically, what they did, they not only were producing the strawberries, they were also freezing the strawberries, sorting the strawberries, packaging the strawberries, and then as a rather big producer, making direct contracts with the supermarkets in Bandung. And this is actually, and here you see, right? Oh, here, Ciwidey. This is what I then by chance ran into one supermarket in Bandung. So this basically, so all the value added was staying in their village. And when we talked to the head of the farmer group, yeah, he was satisfied with the income and with the income situation, right? So that's that's a very nice example. And then we went, where was this done? I don't remember the Kopi Luwak, Pangalengan, right? So we visited a farmers group with coffee, and they had also part of, so I think 80% of the coffee was marketed through a long supply chains, but also about 20% via short supply chain. Nice. Which gave me as a tourist the chance to get a very special souvenir, basically, right? From Indonesia. So this is not just the value of the coffee, that's also the value of a very special souvenir. And I was very happy to find that. Next. And then we also visited this farmer group, Chabe farmer group, and they also basically had the grinding and the packaging all performed in their farmer group. Where was this? Pangalengan also, yes. And was very interesting. And they were also very happy about their income because, yeah, it was also noticeable. I mean, they had all new buildings, etc. Was a very nice initiative, and they were basically also producing the big quantities and then doing direct contracts with supermarkets or other retailers. Yes, next. And then we visited the Buruan Sae, which was, yeah, the food hub. Yes, this was very interesting. And this is a very innovative idea, which was actually, which directly connects to the topic because it is a result of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. And I will talk about the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact in a minute. And Bandung almost got a prize because of the Buruan SAE last year, right? And this was amazing. And their concept was basically, this was the type of short food supply chain every person who likes short food supply chains is dreaming of, basically, because they had like 15, 20 benefits connecting not only food production, but also doing education, using waste, etc., etc. So this was really innovative. And they also mentioned there are 300 of those gardens right now in Bandung. This is a great initiative. Next. Yes. So if you compare the characteristics, next, then traditional marketing is of course a convenient way, and the farmers are probably also used to it. Yes, next. But it's lacking product differentiation and processing. So You saw in a video from Austria that this farm with direct marketing actually did the opposite, right? They tried to differentiate themselves by developing a specific packaging for their farm from other farms. And in this way, basically raising the price of their products and not providing the mass product for which they do not have any price differentiating power. Next. So product quality can be an issue of the traditional marketing. Next. And there is research about the negative effects of peer pressure. Basically, when you have those big agricultural clusters and everybody is basically producing the same product without differentiation, then this can be also very negative for the farmers, because basically this strong competition pushes down output prices and increases input prices. So there are some disadvantages to that. And in comparison now, the innovative short food supply chains, they are different because they are not convenient, right? They are on purpose designed in order to cater certain benefits. And they are also usually the Buran SAE, what they explain, they have a YouTube channel, they have like a Twitter channel, etc. So they are designed in a way in order that they can profit from modern technologies and any other modern possibilities, right? This packaging, etc., and the grinding, also the Charber Farmer Group. I mean, they had all this technology for drying and grinding, right? Possible. And they actually set up also the Charber Farmer Group, all their processing, yeah, in order to maximize the value added staying with them. Next. So basically, those innovative short food supply chains can be designed in order to maximize the benefits for society beyond economic goals. Food security itself is not an economic goal, right? That's like a sustainable development goal. And it's not only about the income, it's also, and you saw that in the video from Italy, it's basically also educating children which are coming to the farm of this Italian lady about nature, about animals, about where the olives grow, etc., right? So there is lots of additional benefit also, not only for the farmer, but for the society in a whole, if you design those short food supply chains in order to reach the goals you want to reach. Next. And those other goals could be community empowerment, education, tourism, agritourism, right? We saw that also in those videos. Culinary heritage, or the preservation of old varieties, plant varieties, animal breeds, etc. So there are many purposes why you could set up those short food supply chains. And this is also partly existing in Europe, because both for plant breeds and for plant varieties and animal breeds, not all of those are equally productive. So what happens for the large scale farms, they are choosing only the most productive varieties and the most productive breeds. Meaning that those less productive breeds, the traditional ones, are losing in importance, and less farms are keeping them. But then some farmers actually decided on purpose to keep those less productive animals in order to basically maintain the genetic diversity. And then this gives them actually a way to differentiate themselves from the mass production, right? And that's why they were also able to basically set up such short food supply chains in order to maintain the genetic heritage of traditional breeds and varieties. Next. And on top of that, there is a wide range of potential benefits which you could achieve if you design the short food supply chains in a certain way, right? And basically what we did in the research, we looked at, what of those benefits has been reported internationally. And you see there are 6 main categories of the benefits those short food supply chains actually have been documented to deliver. It's first, benefits for product quality of the food, benefits concerning space and time, which means transport time and transport across space, benefits according information, right? We saw that from the videos, social media, information transparency, very important. Economic benefits, of course, environmental benefits also, and societal benefits. Basically also bringing, this was very interesting when we visited the Buruan SIA, they were also stressing, the gentleman there, it's very good for the neighborhood, bringing people together. There are many more benefits. And you see, economic benefits is just one of those, right? Next. And then the potential of those short food supply chains is basically that you can also market non-commodity outputs of agriculture. This was in Bogor. More in 15 minutes. Okay, I will try. Okay, so until 55. Yes, I will speed up. Yes. So this was in Bogor, and next. So basically, what they had also set up at the university, in this agro park, such a small short food supply chain where they directly were purchasing from the farmers, processing then at the university, and having a small farm shop plus a cafe. Yeah, and then of course it's nice for people from Bogor to go there, have a nice cafe in a nice environment, and next. And I got also some nice souvenirs, so I was very happy because these are storable souvenirs. And fresh food I cannot take home, but dried food I can take home, and I can then share at home. Next. And also at this Kopi Luwak farmer group, right? I mean, they had also one of this farm cafe, basically some educational material, and then a nice cafe where we sat down and had a coffee, which was also very nice. Next. And this was the Buran Sai, where we also sat down and tasted their juice and got an explanation. So there's of course big potential, and because there is a substantial weekend tourism from Jakarta, I think also for Bandung and for the surroundings of Bandung, that's a huge potential basically, right? Because also, I mean, life in Jakarta is very loud, is very noisy, not much nature. So connecting those people, even if it's like 2 or 3 hours in this environment of Bandung with those initiatives, I think they might appreciate it. Next. And then also agritourism, right? So that's not only something which exists. So this is, where was this? Oh, yes. So across the hill in Chivide, right? We were going down on the other side. That's great, right? And it's that's also a kind of short food supply chain, because it basically connects the consumers with the producers, and there, of course, if they're staying there, you can also try to sell your products there. And there are many more, and these are just some options I by chance ran into when I was in Indonesia. But of course, there are lots, much larger and wider potential. Next. Now, the global goals for those sustainable food system transitions, the food system transitions are at the heart of the global debate. And because there have been 2 major international agreements, next. First were the SDGs, next, and second, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. And in both of them, so here are 7 SDGs, and this is 37 recommended actions. 200 big cities worldwide with about 500 million people. One of them is Bandung. Next. So, in order to make this feasible, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals have been translated into 169 targets, and each of those targets has certain indicators, right, to make it really feasible. Next. And the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact is kind of complementary to that, because the SDGs are goals at country level, basically, both for rural and urban areas. But because most of the consumers are living in rural, in urban areas, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact basically is aiming to develop solutions for global sustainable food system transitions at those urban centers of publication. Next. So, what are SDG targets? Is this readable? Next. Okay, here we are. This is SDG 2.1. No, what is it? Yes, zero hunger, but I cannot read it anymore. Oh yes, now I can read it. Okay, yes, okay, perfect. So here you see the targets. So this is basically undernourishment, malnutrition, sustainable food system, genetic resources, and sustainable agriculture. And next. And then each of those targets has specific indicators. Next. Next. And in those indicators, you see many of those indicators can actually be achieved or increased, basically, when you implement short food supply chains. So the link is naturally fairly strong. Meaning, if you develop short food supply chains, you will reach automatically, you will improve on several of those indicators. Next. And a similar thing for the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Here you have the outcome area and the recommended action. So, for example, promote and strengthen urban and peri-urban food production and processing. Yeah. So this is exactly what the Buruan SAE does, right? Help to provide services to food producers in and around cities. So basically, also here, if you develop those short food supply chains, you also score higher on many of those recommended actions. Next. And again, as for the SDGs, each of those recommended actions has certain indicators, so that there is also the link very fairly direct. So the number of city residents within municipal boundary with access to urban agricultural garden. Yeah, this is exactly what those urban gardens do. Next. So you see that in both policy documents, and both are global, there is a consistent focus on short food supply chains, and they have a big potential basically to support achieving both sets of goals. Next. Next. If you look here, this is all the cities in East Asia which have signed the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Next. And Bandung is big. It's the most active city in Indonesia in the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Next. And it almost got a prize, at least a special mention in the Milan Pact Awards last year, right? Of course, and that's a nice achievement. And I just congratulations. Of course, that's a result of the facilities of the developments which have taken place, and maybe also for the regional perspective, if you develop even the short food supply chains more, this can help in several respects. Next slide. Yes. So there has been a big scientific interest also on those short food supply chains, because not only many farmers implemented them, but also policymakers worldwide thought there is a big potential. Next. But it was not clear what are the possible positive impacts. So having a full overview of the possible positive impacts, and how are those positive impacts actually connected to the global goals. And this is what we did in the research. Next. So basically we extracted from all documented benefits, from all publications, those documented benefits, and then we connected them to the goals. Next. So, and this is worldwide. So this is a global analysis of everything which has been documented. It's 369 benefits which have been documented in the English-speaking literature. And you see most of the benefits of short food supply chains are actually not economic, right? Most of them are relating to society, meaning societal relationships between consumers, producers, etc., empowerment, etc., right? Economic benefits are only the second largest group, and then followed by environmental benefits, product quality benefits, and the other two are then less frequently documented. Next. Maybe I jump over that. Yes, let's go next. Yeah, stop. Yes. This I would like to highlight, because I only have 5 minutes left. What you see here, again, here you see the benefits, right? The circles, and then you see for which kind of short food supply chain organizational structures those benefits have been documented. And here you see the continents. So you see most of them for Asia, North America, for Europe and North America. For Asia, it's only about, what's the number? 17 out of 390. So it's about 5%. Which is a pity, because also in Asia, also especially in Indonesia, there's this idea of the city gardens here in Bandung. Would be worthwhile to document it, so that also other cities can basically learn from the good ideas, right? Next. Yes, and what we then basically did after getting an overview of all those benefits, then we connected those benefits with the SDGs. Here you see the symbols and the number of the SDG targets. This is SDG target 2, zero hunger. And then here you have 4, 5, etc., etc. And then you see, so this is SDG, and here we have the targets 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5. And then here you see how many benefits have been reported for each of those targets. Next. So the target for which most of the benefits worldwide have been documented is basically target 11A, which is support positive economic, social, environmental links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas. Next. So in total, the short food supply chains can actually, depending on how they are designed, can support reaching 26 of those 169 SDG targets. Yeah, so that's something. That's about 15%. Next. And if we then zoom in, so target 11A, what kind of benefits are this? Which are related to supporting positive economic, social, and environmental links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas. Those are societal and economic benefits. For example, group initiatives, economic solidarity, network connection, finding additional buyers, finding more consumers, relationship building, community building, interaction or improvement of relationships in society, identification, belonging to the community, etc., etc. So you see, this is just a very small part of those benefits which have been reported for the target 11A. And what we basically did in the research, we provided a full list of all 369 benefits here relating to which of the SDGs and which of the Milan urban food policy actions. Next. And a similar thing we did for the recommended actions of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Here you see the recommended actions, and these are the objectives. Next. So again, for recommended action 7, promoting sustainable diets, healthy, safe, culturally appropriate, environmental friendly, and rights-based. Most of those short food supply chain benefits have been documented. Next. In total, so half of the recommended actions can be improved by implementing short food supply chains. Next. And here again, let's zoom in. So this is MOVE recommended action 7. Those are the documented benefits which all basically improve this recommended action. Family-work balance, healthier diet, improved diets, biodiversity, reduced use of chemicals, etc. Yeah? And you see also now the character of the benefits changes a little. That for the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, the emphasis is much more on societal benefits than on economic benefits, as we have seen for the SDGs. Next. Yes, conclusions, and now I'm in time. Next. So, you have seen that the short food supply chains have been reported to generate a wide range of benefits worldwide. Next. And they can be flexibly designed to help reaching multiple SDGs and Milan Food Urban Policy Pact goals. Next. And at several levels of governance, right? As at municipal level, provincial, as well as national level. Next. Only 10% of all benefits have been reported for Asia in international literature. Next. Which is a pity, because, next, documentation and research would be important also in the framework of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, in order to let, to give example to other cities, so that they can basically learn from the experiences here. How well does that work with the Buddha Hansai, right? What are the benefits? Where the people are most happy about? What are issues which have still to be resolved? Next. For West Java, there, because also due to this weekend tourism with Jakarta, right? I see there a high potential in connecting the short food supply chains. For example, so beyond food production, right? Sundanese culture, of course, this is mostly for the European tourists, but also culinary heritage and nutrition diversity. Next. Connecting them also to conservation of traditional knowledge, as well as old and traditional plant varieties and animal breeds. Next. Agritourism. Next. Education for locals and European tourists or international tourists about nature, about production processes, about everything which is not written in books, basically, right? Which you have to experience and which you cannot read. Next. Yeah. So in bottom line, I think there's immense potential for generating even more win-win situations for the governments at all levels, but also for the citizens in rural and urban areas in West Java by developing this idea more. Next. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Rico. You can just stand up here. It's a very well blended presentation, I guess, considering that we are all here from different background. I think you did a perfect job in presenting your research. Two keywords that I can take from your presentation, I think, distance and relationship. A short distance is good for relationship. Long distance is not good. Yeah. That fit perfectly well with your research in our life too. Anyway, so we still have, because we start late, so I think we have around 20 or half an hour to have discussion if it's allowed by Pak Eka. Okay. Oh, no. Not good for relationship. Okay. So I will open first round of questions from the audience here and also in Zoom. And then we can round it up the three questions and let Rico to address all of those three. So let's go ahead. You can just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Lady first, ya. Silakan.
And I would ask, have you ever visited Al-Itifat?
Sorry?
Al-Itifat is actually Islamic boarding school at Ranca Bali, Ciwidey.
No.
It's no. It's actually an institution, but also encourage the student to do an agriculture for a living. So it's not only focusing on the studies, also the entrepreneurship, which actually involving the farmers in their surrounding. Yeah. And it's actually a very good example from what you were been explaining to us. And also the variety of the foods that consumed in the society, especially in West Java, it's actually already encouraged by the government because we have a festival, a food festival, that introducing the culture and the local foods, and it's also competition amongst the, kalau kabupaten apa ya Pak? Municipal ya? Districts.
Okay.
It's held once a year. Initiated by Indah, actually. Perindustrian and Perdagangan, the Office of Trades and Industries.
What month is it?
I don't know, but
I know when I need
usually once a year. But it's varies. The time is actually varies. But I don't know whether it's still conducted or not. The last time I participate or seeing the festival is about just before COVID. So I don't know whether it is still being doing or not. But for the food change, I think one of the most volatile products in West Java, and also one of the things that influence the inflation is actually chili. In Indonesia or West Java, one of the publication from BPS said that the notes of that products is around 4 and more than 80% of the profits not goes to the farmers. It's more like the trading. So if this is works from my experience or what I see, usually this kind of things works now here in Indonesia in a very small community or scale. How to upgrade it? because usually just in the last few weeks, the price of the chili is actually high rocketing, so it's reached almost 100,000 per kilos, which usually around 60 ya Pak ya, 40-60 ribu. And it's not seasonal. Chili is not seasonal because we consume it almost every day. So for that particular one product, is it possible to do some short purchase or something? Terutama untuk especially for the products used for the counting of inflation. So we can actually control, terutama untuk Nataru. Is it actually possible for some occasion or sometimes, usually during Christmas seasons or Lebaran, some products is actually pricing very high. Hopefully this system is actually can help us, the government, to regulate some of the products so we can actually control the price. Is it actually possible to do so?
Controlling the price is usually expensive.
Yeah, and hard.
Yes. I mean, I would suggest it, maybe that's a nice work for research for the University of Pachacaran, you know. I mean, getting very clear about the market dynamics and then also doing qualitative research among those because it's, I think, mostly produced on farmer group level, right? The chili? Pardon? Chili is mostly produced on farmer group level, no individual farmers.
From my short knowledge, usually chili is produced not by large-scale farmers, usually personal.
But they are organized in farmer groups, are they? Yes.
Some of them, yes.
I mean, and then, I mean, you know, just to find out from them what are basically the factors which are preventing them to, because there are, you know, this one Java farmer group which I visited together with Dadan. They do everything there, so it's possible. But obviously there is some factors which basically prevent that the others do that too. And then, of course, if you clarify what factors these are, then you can do something from government side, I guess.
Okay, so but can you introduce? You haven't introduced yourself. So remember you.
My name is Ira. I'm from West Java Office of Communication and Informatics.
Thank you. Next one.
Okay, thank you. My name is Victor. I'm from Faculty of Economics, Pajajaran University. I would like to ask you about the short supply chain. Yeah. Yeah. I think it is inevitable that the world will become increasingly digitalized. And how are digital platform and social media changing the marketing and the distribution approach of SFSCs? And then in Indonesia, including in Jawa Barat, in West Java, farmers often sell their agricultural product to middlemen, the tengkulak. And sometimes out of necessity and sometimes voluntary. In the context of short food supply chain, how does this dynamic play out? And what should the government play in supporting the development of SFCs? And lastly, what are the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war to this short supply chain activities? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I mean, we saw also from the video from Austria, the social media and the digitalization, actually, they offer also to the farmer groups lots of opportunities. And also when we visited the Burang Sai Sawargi, yes, I mean, they had also their YouTube channel. So this offers, I think, a very cheap and a very immediate possibility for those agricultural producers to directly connect to the consumers and to reach consumers which they, without digitalization, would never be able to reach, right? So actually, this technological development favors the establishment of the short food supply chains. You know? Because also, especially the young people, they are very literate in that, and they are also very motivated. So, but which is also good for societal cohesion, because I mean, maybe all the people have more experience in agricultural production themselves, but then basically, in order to reach a common goal, to set up such a short food supply chain, I mean, you know, different age groups will have a common goal, which is good for society, for community empowerment, basically. The effect of Russia's invasion on Ukraine, it has basically stressed the vulnerability of global food markets, I think, because what happened when it started in February last year, I mean, just, yeah, in March already, so like 2 weeks afterwards, woof, prices exploded, right? So this showed that those global, or the prices of those commodities which are globally traded, are not resilient, right? So if there is really such a, I mean, of course, it's a major event because Ukraine is a major producer for vegetable oil and also for wheat, and partly for other grains, for maize. But this, of course, caused global trouble, right? And in this context, so the more you have your food supply regionalized, the more independent you are from those global developments, which is a good thing. Yes, yeah, because then you do not. Also, I mean, if you think of, I remember, when was it, 2 or 3 years ago? Of course, I mean, Europe has to, because of the climate condition, has to import lots of food, right? So we are basically importing all the coffee. And I remember, like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a drought in Brazil, which is the world's largest coffee producer. Of course, we cannot produce coffee in Europe, right? But we were basically also the victim of the drought in Brazil because coffee prices just exploded, right? But of course, in the context of Indonesia, that's different because you can produce here everything, basically. I mean, yeah, most of the food, right?
Thank you very much. So, my name is Rudy. I'm from Development Planning and Research and Innovation of Bandung Agency. So, thank you very much for your presentation. Very insightful. I'm so grateful for being here. So, regarding your presentation, I highlighted about the short, what you mean, short supply chains. They are multifunctionality.
Yes.
They are shorten or cut the extra in the supply chain to make it shorter, so the producer will meet the consumer easily.
Right.
And then you also mention about how to add the value added of products by the innovation. That's the key of the supply chain.
Right.
In your term. Right. So what I want to ask is, in Europe and Indonesia, if you compare, is there any difference in the initiative, how farmer initiate the sort of supply chain? Is it a government initiative or farmer initiative? Because if I mostly in Indonesia, when a government support the smallholders in terms of innovation or production or packaging system, and then they can grow their business. This not only can they sell the product to middlemen or market, but and they can produce any kind of products with their agriculture products. So that's one my question, because it's very important for us to initiate another approach or another what you call it, system, to develop the system that can increase the farmer profit. That's the one question. So I remember when I visited Spain, it was a conference about agri-food network. There's a young farmer in Brisbane. They have a connection between the farmers and restaurant. One of farmers only has 2 hectares, but they can build a connection around 13 restaurants. So the connection is that the farmer, they can get like leftover food and organic waste from the restaurant, and they process the waste become a compost, and then directly the restaurant get fresh vegetable from the farm. It's like I think it is one of kind of sort food supply. And then this not only benefit in economic but also in environment.
Exactly.
So in your experience, how can we can grow this initiative in Indonesia? So we can not only gain the economic benefit from the farmers, but also the environmental benefit. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I mean, in Europe, the initiative for the short food supply chains, in most cases, is on the side of the farmers. I mean, you saw that from the 2 videos. The lady from Italy in the second video, right? I mean, she stated that also. She said, my farm is too small, basically, to economically survive from only food production. So, I mean, depending where your farm is located and how large it is, I think there are, you could characterize it as 2, at least in European context, 2 types of farms. The ones which are located in competitive environmental circumstances, they go for growth and more productivity. But those in the mountains, somewhere remote, they do not have the, I mean, growth and productivity increase is not an option, right? So in order for them to economically survive, they go into short food supply chains, because then they have, I mean, the lady said, right, at her farm, between 5,000 and 10,000 pupils per year is visiting, right? And of course, I'm not sure she is taking then some money for this educational thing, but of course also there is a win-win situation, because also for the schools, of course, they want the kids to have education about nature, and this is what they can provide. And in, I mean, in the really big cities, like London, like Paris, like New York, Berlin also, sometimes the initiative for the establishment of short food supply chains is initiated on the consumer side, because they are, you know, groups of consumers which share a certain vision on society, and they anyway know each other due to other contexts, right? I mean, they are vegans or vegetarians or something in common which binds them, and at some point they decide, yeah, we want to get involved into such an community-based agricultural scheme, right? But this is very small percentage of all the short food supply chains actually in Europe. And so they're kind of supported, but it's not like that at least in Europe, they're how to put that? The European Union is aware of the benefits and is supporting the whole idea because of diversification. And it also, I think the situation differs a lot between Europe and Indonesia, because basically European agriculture, in order to stay kind of competitive, is getting a higher support from the government. So the establishment of short food supply chains, which basically provide multifunctionality to society, not more than food, right? Gives, of course, then also a stronger justification to give this support to agriculture, because they are not providing only food, but also public goods, so general benefits to society. The well-being of being in a rural area, the quietness, etc., etc. So the European government has some interest in establishing that. How to promote it in Indonesia? I think a good step would be to document those existing short food supply chains, and just to give them maybe at the Foods Festival, if it is still existing, to give them to make there really a day of the short food supply chain or something, to give them really attention in the media, so that other farmer groups are also getting aware of the idea, or organizing extension visits to those short food supply chains, basically to those farm groups which are engaging in short food supply chains, so that other farmer groups can interact with those farm groups which took this short food supply chain approach, so that they can exchange experiences. And what you said, this example, but this is also what the people from the Buruhan Sai told us. This is also practiced in Bandung, basically. So what they are taking in the gardens, they are taking the waste from the neighborhood, the organic waste, and they're giving vegetables in exchange, right? So this is perfect, because this is also good because it's a very different benefit for society, which is basically prevention of organic waste, right? Yes.
Okay, Ronnie, and then maybe I would like to invite someone from Zoom. I think if there is anyone asking a raise hand from the Zoom. Anyone from the Zoom meeting just would to like to ask questions to record? Okay, if not, then Ronnie, please.
Ya, terima kasih. Terima kasih, Pak Arif. Pak Riko, my name is Ronnie. I'm from Faculty of Agriculture, Pajajaran University. I have two questions. First, is your term of what sort food supply chain is the same terminology with food hub?
Yes, food hub is one type of short food supply chain.
Okay, so it's identical.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Okay.
So food hub is one form of.
Okay. Because Bapenas, it's starting to introduce sub-region of food hub in Indonesia. they divide Indonesia become 6 sub food systems. So within each sub-region, they have a food hub. So rather than taking the whole nation, because Indonesia is so wide, as one food system, instead, Bappenas now consider to introduce 6 sub-food hub in Indonesia, and each sub-food hub, it's one one food hub. So it is become shorter rather than going nationally, they're going to the region first. Okay, so it's identical, meaning that the term of short food supply chain is not necessarily within one region only. It can be also between region, but within one nation. Because you contrast short food supply chain as with the long food supply chain, which is international marketed chain, like in supermarket. So meaning that within Indonesia, is still considered short food supply chain, even though it's from, say, Bandung going to Surabaya, because we are still one nation, if I understand correctly. Because one thing that I remember information from the traders said that for local markets, say in West Java, we have Caringan market, which is the shortest supply chain from Pangalengan and Lembang. In contrast, the longer supply chain is going to Kramat Jati, which is Jakarta and the national chain. And the limitation of the short food supply chain is limited demand and lower value added. So that's a limitation. So I think what I understand from the short food supply chain, it's I still doubt on the sustainability of it because of the low value added and also lower demand because of the small region. And I have a question for Pak Eka, because you introduced the regional market center for West Java. Pusat Distribusi Provinsi. What concept are you going to use to operate that market in the whole marketing system? Is it just another central market, more regionally, say, or it's similar to the food hub, which is the Bappenas trying to introduce now? Okay, hello, thank you.
If my collector will add.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Whether, I mean, Indonesia, I think on the weekend I had the idea to because I have only been to Java, Indonesia, and Java feels already big because also traffic times are fairly long. So I thought I should look at Google Maps and get an idea how large Indonesia is. And then I cut it and I worked a little bit around, and then I basically noticed Indonesia has from northwest to southeast the same distance as from Wageningen to Mecca. So this is huge. I wouldn't say this is a short food supply chain. It's huge. You know, in Europe, you have like, for the same distance, you have like 20 countries next to each other. And in Indonesia, that's one country. But it's just because there is so much water in between, I think it's worthwhile to differentiate for the Indonesian context into several food systems, because it's just so heterogeneous, you know. I mean, if you compare that and then when I measure the distance straight south, I had the distance from Wageningen to Burkina Faso, which is also huge. Yeah. So I think for Indonesia, because also the transport effort you have to make for, I mean, you cannot only do it by train, you need to load it to boat, etc. Might be difficult to speak of short food supply chains I mean, on Java or on Sumatra, maybe, but also Sumatra, right? I mean, the north of Sumatra is like 2,000 kilometers from here, which is huge. I wouldn't say, because, I mean, one big idea of the short food supply chain is that there is also a community around, right? Not sure. I don't know. I mean, I've never been there. It's 2,000 kilometers sounds far to me. Yeah.
Okay. Pak, you want to add something?
Hatur nuhun Pak Roni, salam kenal Pak. Concerning provincial distribution center, from my understanding, the function is similar with Bulog, Pak. Similar with Bulog. So basically, our problem, especially when Ibu said Buira, I think Buira sana mentioned something about during Nataru or other events in West Java, sometimes there's some scarcity of bapokting, ya, bahkan bahan pokok dan penting. So it's more like how we can regulate the bahan pokok penting. Sometimes in this area is surplus, sometimes in that certain area is still minus. It's regulated by this pusat distribusi provinsi. The function is similar to Bulog, but Bulog is it's nationwide. So sometimes not even though Bulog Jabar is situated in Jabar, sometimes there's a need in NTT, they send to NTT. But for PDB or Pusat Divisi Provinsi, it's mostly served for West Java purpose. In the future, we hope PDP can also serve as a trade center for the trade, interprovincial trade or inter-area trade. PDP will be the hub, will be the center. Yeah. So it's still early stage, but for now, the commodity that are doing now is still cooking oils to make sure that the supply is the stock always there, something like that. In the future, they also would like to ensure meat, poultry, something, but they still need the cold storage for now. It's still early, they don't have money, but they are being managed by one of the state-owned enterprise from West Java, Agro Jabar, so BUMD Pak, Jawa Barat. Still early stage, you still need lots of support, and please maybe Pak Roni and Faperta have some ideas how to develop PDP. Please look forward to also listen to your suggestion. Maybe we have colleague from Dinas Indak. Ada nggak? Ada Dinas Indak maybe in Zoom. Maybe you can add something. If not, maybe that's it. I can.
Thank you, Pak Eka. I think there are still many more questions in many of your head, but since we're already 4:30 and we have to go home to have a good relationship with whoever at home, so let me end discussion by again thanking Rico for the very interesting and nice presentation and discussion. Please give a big applause. Yeah? Thank you. Okay, so I would like to end with Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and return the microphone to the master of ceremony.
Thank you, Prof. Arif. Next agenda, there will be closing statement from Head of Economy and Natural Resources Planning Agency of West Java, Sundana. To Mr. Eka Jatika Sundana, the time is yours.
Thank you, MC. Again, thank you, Dr. Rico, for the presentation. It's very interesting, very insightful for us in West Java. Apologies, maybe for the next part I will say something in Bahasa Indonesia because I need more emotion. Sometimes maybe I cannot convey in English. Bapak Ibu, jadi kita dengarkan bahan dari Pak Riko nih gitu ya, yang sudah didatangkan jauh-jauh gitu. Dan di sini hadir teman-teman dari perangkat daerah, dari kabupaten kota, juga teman-teman dari akademisi. Termasuk ada mahasiswa-mahasiswa juga nih gitu. Jadi ini sangat heterogen gitu di sini ya. Saya yakin masih banyak pertanyaan-pertanyaan, still lots of question from us. So maybe it's possible, maybe we can ask you later on via email or something. Kalau ada pertanyaan Bapak Ibu ya gitu, mohon disampaikan via email, kita tanyakan langsung kepada beliau. Karena buat saya pribadi, tadi saya coba mendengarkan paparan beliau ini kok relevan banget dengan kebutuhan Jabar menurut saya gitu. Relevan banget. Kita sekarang sedang menyusun RPJP provinsi. Di RPJP ini isu pangan selalu ke depan terus, ya, jadi masalah terus. Dan satu sisi juga kemarin ada muncul isu-isu yang namanya green economy, circular economy, dan sekarang berkembang lagi jadi blue economy kan, yang mungkin jadi berkembang, oh ini masalah kelautan gitu, sumber daya laut dan lain-lain. Itu sebetulnya in principle secara spirit si Gunter Pauli itu yang bikin blue economy kan sebetulnya prinsipnya ini gitu. Prinsipnya tuh ini, bagaimana how could provide kita bisa menyediakan resource itu secara lokal gitu. Dekat gitu. Minimize waste, malah zero waste gitu. Prinsip-prinsip ini yang sebetulnya relevan banget buat kebutuhan Jawa Barat ke depan. Dan ide-ide yang didapat dari kuliah-kuliah yang selama ini kita datangkan ke sini gitu ya. Selain dengan UNPAD juga dengan beberapa teman-teman akademisi lain. Sebelumnya waktu itu Pak Arnold ya, Arnold dari mana? Leiden, terus siapa yang dari Chiang Mai, siapa namanya? Pak Sapon gitu ya. Ini kan sesuatu yang mungkin kalau kami di pemerintah, mungkin kalau kabupaten maksudnya nggak berani klaim ya, tapi di provinsi gitu ya mungkin sering banyak melihat permasalahan itu yang sekarang kita alami. Tapi apa yang tren terjadi ke depan mungkin kita belum ada wawasan gitu ya, atau belum kebayang gitu. Nah mungkin karena akademisi yang level internasional inilah punya insight-insight seperti ini gitu ya, mungkin biar kita kebayang ternyata ke depan tuh seperti ini masalahnya itu. Karena negara-negara yang sudah berevolusi lebih duluan daripada kita gitu. Nah, kita bisa belajar dari pengalaman negara-negara ini. Harapan saya Bapak Ibu, mungkin saya dengan emosi ini ngomongnya gitu ya. Tolong ide-ide yang dapat itu kita masukkan ke dokumen perencanaan kita. Gitu. Masukkan ke RPJPD kita. Nanti diterjemahkan ke RPJMD kita. Diterjemahkan lagi dalam RKPD. Terus gitu. Jadi ini harapannya seperti itu. Kenapa didatangin acara seperti ini? Hanya sekedar dengerin lupa gitu. Nah seperti itu. Tapi ingin betul-betul bagaimana poin-poin yang bagus ini masuk ke dalam dokumen perencanaan kita. Buat saya ini relevan banget buat kebutuhan Jawa Barat. So it's very relevant Pak Riko with West Java need. And I'm very happy that you also lots of example that you've done to Ciwidey, Pangalengan, etc. So you have already proved that your theory is applicable in West Java ya. So gitu mungkin Bapak Ibu, mungkin mudah-mudahan acara hari ini ada manfaatnya kita semua. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu sudah hadir, baik hadir langsung di sini. Alhamdulillah ramai ya, dan juga rekan-rekan semua yang hadir secara online, secara di Zoom gitu. Terima kasih. Ada 32 partisipan, terima kasih. Mudah-mudahan kita bertemu lagi pada event-event acara diskusi dan lecture selanjutnya. Mohon maaf jika ada kekurangan on behalf of Head of Bapeda. Again, thank you for coming to Bapeda and sharing your knowledge and insight. Very happy to have you. How long are you staying in Bandung? Leave tomorrow. Already 7 weeks. Oh, okay. Okay, so hopefully this one of the last places to visit. Hopefully it's memorable for you. And maybe in the future we have opportunity to visit you in Wageningen. Teman-teman ada yang mau ke Belanda nggak? Kayaknya ini teman-teman masih yang muda pengen pada sekolah ke Belanda. Again, terima kasih atas segala perhatiannya. Mohon maaf jika ada kekurangan. Terima kasih Prof. Arif berkenan sebagai moderator. Again, 2 MC. Thank you. Semoga ada manfaatnya pengalaman. Nanti ceritain minggu depan ya. Oke. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Eka Jatnika Sundana. We have arrived at the end of our agenda. I want to express my gratitude to our speaker, moderator who guided this lecture, and all of the participants for joining us today. Your participation has made this event truly insightful. On behalf of the committee, we also do apologize for any mistake during the event.
Menjelang akhir dari acara hari ini, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada para pembicara, moderator yang telah memandu acara ini, dan seluruh peserta yang telah bergabung bersama kami. Partisipasi Anda telah membuat acara ini menjadi sangat bermanfaat. Atas nama panitia, kami juga mohon maaf atas segala kesalahan yang terjadi selama acara berlangsung.
Thank you for being a part of the Public Lecture 2023. Stay connected with us for future events and updates. Stay safe and have a nice day.
Terima kasih telah menjadi bagian dari Kuliah Umum 2023. Nantikan acara dan informasi terbaru di masa mendatang. Semoga hari Anda menyenangkan. Sebelum meninggalkan ruangan, kepada para peserta beserta pembicara, pada hari ini dipersilakan untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama. Untuk para peserta diharapkan untuk maju ke depan.